In the quiet city of San Diego, a former vice detective's double life is exposed, unveiling a web of deceit and exploitation. Meet Peter Griffin, not your average citizen, but a man of many faces. A retired San Diego police vice detective, an attorney and a private investigator. A man who for years was tasked with upholding justice and law. But as the saying goes, sometimes those who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protection from. Griffin's name emerged at the epicenter of a scandalous operation, a conspiracy that spanned across the Golden State of California and into the dry lands of Arizona. 5 illicit massage businesses operating under the guise of offering therapeutic massage services were in fact dens of a darker trade, commercial sex sold under the veneer of relaxation and wellness. And who was at the helm of it all? The very man who once wore the badge. The retired detective who left the police department at the dawn of the millennium found a new role for himself, not as a guardian of the law, but as the boss of an illegal empire. The law enforcer turned lawbreaker was sentenced to 33 months in custody, a sentence that barely scratches the surface of his crimes. Genie Oriental Spa, Felicita Spa, Blue-Green Spa, Maple Spa, Massage W Spa, these were the names that hid the ugly truth. Names that fooled the public, while behind their closed doors a grim reality unfolded, a reality that exploited the vulnerable and benefited the guilty. And it was Griffin, the former law enforcer, who masterminded this operation. He employed his knowledge and skills, honed during his tenure as a vice detective, to evade law enforcement, conceal evidence, and maintain a facade of legitimacy. His reputation as a former police officer rather than deterring crime was used to fuel it. But how did a former law enforcer become the mastermind behind such a widespread and illicit operation? Griffin was not alone in his ventures. He had accomplices. Meet Kyung-Suk Hernandez, Yu Hong Tan, and Yu Jin Ott. This trio of conspirators managed the illicit massage businesses within Griffin's network, and they were no novices at playing hide-and-seek with the law. They were the puppet masters behind the scenes, ensuring that the facade of therapeutic massage services never faltered, even as the businesses thrived on selling commercial sex. Their roles were pivotal, their actions undeniably criminal, yet they were as much a part of the machinery as Griffin, the so-called boss. When their day of reckoning came, they were each handed a sentence of 6 months in custody. A small price to pay for a large part in such a grim operation. But what were these businesses and how did they operate under the radar for so long? Behind the facade of therapeutic massage services, an empire of exploitation thrived. The 5 illicit massage businesses, Genie Oriental Spa, Felicita Spa, Blue-Green Spa, Maple Spa, and Massage W Spa, were not just ordinary spas. They were the heart of a criminal empire that spanned from the greater San Diego area to Tempe, Arizona. These establishments were more than just storefronts. They were hubs of illicit activities, meticulously designed to escape the prying eyes of the law. Griffin and his accomplices were experts at playing the system. They incorporated their businesses with state agencies, a move that gave their operations an air of legitimacy. But beneath this veneer of respectability, a darker reality lurked. Managing the illicit proceeds was a critical part of their operation. The money trail was carefully hidden, making it difficult for anyone to trace the source of their wealth. Yet the profits from their illegal enterprises were substantial. The empire was thriving, and it was all built on exploitation and deceit. Their advertising strategy was just as cunning. They marketed their services online, offering therapeutic massages to unsuspecting clients. But behind closed doors, these massages were a front for commercial sexual services. The internet was their marketplace, and they used it to expand their reach and recruit more victims. In their relentless pursuit of profit, Griffin and his accomplices employed a range of tactics to keep their operations under wraps. They leased and bought residential properties to house their employees, further isolating them from the outside world. They even secured credit card processing equipment, making it easier for clients to pay for their illicit services and harder for authorities to follow the money. Griffin, the self-proclaimed boss, was the puppet master in this operation. He oversaw nearly every aspect of the illicit businesses, making himself indispensable. His experience as a vice detective, an attorney, and a private investigator served him well. He knew exactly how to evade law enforcement and maintain the facade of legitimacy. So, who were the victims of this insidious operation? In the shadows of this criminal enterprise, vulnerable individuals were exploited. The victims, mostly non-English speaking immigrants from Korea and China, found themselves caught in the web of Griffin's illicit operations. These were individuals with limited employment opportunities and financial resources thrust into a world of commercial sex under the guise of therapeutic massage services. The exploitation was multifaceted. Not only were these individuals expected to perform commercial sex services, but they were also living under the constant pressure of the illicit business. They were the backbone of the operation, yet they were treated as disposable commodities in a trade that cared little for their well-being. To add to the chilling narrative, Griffin and his co-conspirators employed a brutal tactic of psychological manipulation. One employee, upon expressing her reluctance to perform commercial sex services, was met with a cruel instruction. She was told to leave her morals in China in order to make the customers happy. This chilling statement encapsulates the ruthless disregard for human dignity that underpinned this entire operation. Imagine the fear and desperation that must have engulfed these victims, struggling with a language barrier, isolated from their homelands, and trapped in an alien environment where their rights were constantly violated. Yet they were expected to put on a facade, to smile and appease the customers, all while their basic human rights were being trampled upon. The narratives of these victims reveal a grim reality, a reality where vulnerable individuals are exploited for financial gain, where human dignity is sacrificed for profit, and where the very individuals entrusted with upholding the law become the perpetrators of its most egregious violations. The question that now hangs heavy in the air is, how did Griffin utilize his past experiences to aid in these heinous activities? Griffin was no ordinary criminal. He was a former vice detective, an attorney, and a private investigator. These roles, which should have made him a guardian of the law, instead provided him with the tools to mastermind a criminal empire that thrived on exploitation and deceit. Griffin, once a guardian of the law, used his skills and reputation to bolster his criminal endeavors. An ironic twist of fate, wouldn't you agree? Here was a man who once wore the badge of honor, a man entrusted with the duty to protect, serve, and uphold the law. Yet he chose to exploit his knowledge and position for personal gain, betraying the very trust that society had placed in him. As a former vice detective, Griffin was well versed in the workings of the illicit trade he later came to operate. He knew the rules of the game, the strategies employed by law enforcement, and how to evade them. His education as an attorney provided him with an understanding of the law, its loopholes, and how to exploit them. As a private investigator, he had honed his skills in gathering and concealing evidence, skills he later used to cover up his criminal activities. But perhaps the most egregious aspect of Griffin's betrayal was his use of his reputation as a former police officer. This was a man who had once been a beacon of trust and safety in his community. He used this trust, this respect, to maintain a facade of legitimacy for his illicit businesses, thereby enabling their continued operation. This was not just a betrayal of his oath as a police officer, or his commitment as a lawyer, or his duty as a private investigator. This was a betrayal of trust on a much deeper level. A betrayal of the very principles of justice, fairness, and integrity that form the bedrock of any civilized society. In the end, however, Griffin's web of deceit unraveled. The law he had once served and later defied finally caught up with him. The IRS Criminal Investigation Unit, the true heroes of this tale, meticulously pieced together the evidence, exposed his criminal empire, and brought him to justice. In the end, justice prevailed, showing that no one is above the law. Griffin, the once respected law enforcement officer turned criminal mastermind, met his inevitable downfall. Every story of crime and betrayal eventually leads to a moment of reckoning, a moment where the deceiver faces the consequences of their actions. In Griffin's case, this moment came when the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit stepped in. These dedicated agents, the unsung heroes of our justice system, worked tirelessly to unravel Griffin's web of deceit. They sifted through financial records, interviewed victims, and gathered the evidence needed to expose his criminal empire. It was a painstaking process, but it proved that no one, no matter how clever or cunning, can evade the long arm of the law forever. As Griffin's former colleagues, they felt a sense of personal betrayal, but they also felt a deep sense of duty. They knew they had to bring him to justice, not just for the victims of his crimes, but for the integrity of the law enforcement community. The day Griffin was arrested marked the end of his reign of deception. It was a day of victory for justice, a reminder that no one is above the law. In the end, the law that Griffin once upheld, then betrayed, ultimately brought him down. His downfall serves as a stark reminder that crime doesn't pay, and trust, once broken, is near impossible to regain. Utra, thanks for joining us on this journey into the dark underbelly of crime and betrayal. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. We appreciate your support and feedback. And remember, no one is above the law.